Yes, Yeshua Shalom, it's your brother Baruch. You know, I want to come address the Nipsey Hussle thing that I and I was speaking on there. Now in the King of Kings, the undisputed King of Kings video, we were referencing Nipsey with Tigrinya, but you know, I want to exact and get that right. Nipsey is from Eritrea, and Nipsey's relations is with Eritrea. Though the point that I want to make though, and when you see, if you look over there on the left side of the screen right there, that's the Amharic right there. So just so brothers and sisters know, that's the Amharic under the, you know, and then we got the KJV strong right there. Give credit to where credit is due. Shout out to the IOTA software for upgrading to the revised Metzahafa Kadus, the Bible of His Imperial Majesty Kedamawi Haile Selassie, and some of those terminologies we have to use that way so that people will get a better understanding for our brothers who have a higher education and a better articulation of that, such as like the Rebbe Wyndham Yadam, and give thanks, you know, to his fluency in Amarinya, and some of the Ethiopian language and some of our other brothers and sisters also. Though what I want to come over here is I want to stay, because like I said, and before in that video we were speaking about, you know, the bad tribalism. A lot of the brothers who have to say a prayer for our brothers who get caught up in the gangs, you know what I'm saying? Because, and shout out to Wyndham Meyer song, Love the Eye. We were just having had a discussion of this, you know, a lot of brothers, and let me say this, you know, not to, you know, the brothers that get caught up in the gang life and everything like that, you know what I mean? A lot of times we have to catch yourself. We pray for them brothers, man, because we were just speaking about this one. I think there was one OG we had seen on the YouTubes. Kind of, he was speaking about how he had kind of accepted going to hell. You know what I mean? And oh man, that's really bad. You know what I'm saying? And we realized, you know, me and the Wyndham, we were speaking. It was like, you know, he said something to me that really stood out, and I think it's very important. I just wanted to share this with all the brothers and sisters. And he was like, you know, that's something that, you know, when people get caught up in a life like that, that's something that you have to pray to Jah to take away. You know, like you have to pray to him to take that spirit away from you. Because I realized, like, man, chant, you know what I mean? Like, it's an attachment, you know what I'm saying? Like the lifestyle. So for you brothers and sisters that's out there caught up, you know what I'm saying? We pray for you. You know, I pray that, you know, that brothers and sisters get rounded to the truth, to the OGs out there that are doing the yeshivas, the Hebrew education schools. Thank Jah, man. Thank the our God and Father. You know what I mean? And thank the Almighty Jesus Christos that we can bring some of these children, you know, and turn their direction. You know what I'm saying? And into a better place. And like I said, my whole thing with it was, the way I looked at it was like, hey, I'm not soft. You know what I'm saying? I always thought that, you know, most brethren, you know, it's just your neighborhood. A lot of brothers, they grew up right there in the midst of the neighborhood, man. You know, it's almost like they almost didn't see no other choice. You know what I'm saying? For those ones that it happened to like that, you know what I'm saying? They really didn't see no other choice. Now, those of y'all, you know, who, you know, you had your peoples moved you in a better area, you know what I mean? And even nowadays in the US, that even that right there is, that's sharply said, because, you know, if you know anything about the cities, like from the 90s, if you look at the cities, like a lot of brothers and sisters, they would move into like the suburb areas. The parents would get kind of, you know, they get a little money and they be able to buy, you know, their first kind of beginner home or a decent home in like a brand new suburb area. You know what I'm saying? And you go some years, man, you go 20 years, a lot of these places that have the same direction that of the very ghetto that we came from, you know, all the miscellaneous activity or the gang violence. And I think we were speaking one time, they were talking about there was these kids one time, I think it's somewhere, I don't know if it was in Cali, I believe it was in Cali, but they were rich. They were rich in gang banging. All right, and I mean, and sliding on each other too, knocking each other off. I mean, it was, oh man, it was disgusting. You know what I mean? Just to see that kind of those things happen. As we said, we just pray for the brothers and sisters that's out there caught up in the life, because it surely ain't no joke. You know what I'm saying? And I don't wish that on anybody. I do pray that you can overcome those things, because you could see some real wicked things, and some things can really happen to you out here. So, we just pray that you find that guidance and that light away from those areas. And we give thanks for those older brothers who, trying to guide the youth in the better light. Even the ones that may not necessarily know the Torah, you know what I'm saying? But if they mean righteousness and they got love in their heart for the youth or what they see them going through, and our people out there in poverty, man, for a lot of people fighting poverty, we have to pray for these people, man, to see what they going through, the poor people. And I make no mistake when I said that treat the poor and the rich alike. I mean, as far as justice, as far as still, there's the verse that says, don't rebuke a poor man in his cause. So if you see a man stealing because he got to eat, I mean, you shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Like, come on. You know what I'm saying? He's stealing because he got to eat. Now, if you didn't, you got enough money in your pocket, or you have the ability to do something else and you choose to do wrong, and well, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? That judgment is on you. You know what I mean? You know better than what you're doing. But those of them, for the poor out here, man, and in these striving in these conditions, whether it's extreme heat, in the summer, the extreme heat, or the extreme cold in the wintertime conditions. It's just sad to see it, man. It's heartbreaking. So we do pray that things will turn and go in a different direction. Now, what I was speaking about Nipsey is that referencing Nipsey to Tigray, and actually, like we were saying, Nipsey is from Eritrea. Nipsey is from Eritrea. You know what I'm saying? And also was speaking about in the Undisputed King of Kings how even though Nipsey and Black Sam, they came over to LA. I noticed how Nipsey, he became a 60, and Black Sam, was just Black Sam. He didn't join no set or nothing like that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, Black Sam don't play. You know what I mean? And I've always been that kind of brother too. You know what I mean? Whether or not I grew up in the neighborhood or not, you know what I'm saying? I've always been the one where I'm still not gonna play with you. I might not be actively in the set, but I'm not finna play with you. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, because that's just a human basis of survival. It has nothing to do with trying to be hard or nothing like that. If you grew up in the hood, you already know what it is. You know what I mean? Now, on another note, what I wanted to say is that the bad tribalism is what we want to address, because I really feel like now that is where a lot of the violence, a lot of things that happen that cause the violence to go on. Now, there's a lot of different, of course, situations that can cause violence to go on. It's not just tribal warfare in a sense, or somebody picking a side of their gang against another gang. Though we can see that the wickedness, you know what I'm saying? There's a spiritual kind of like a evil that kind of would like those things to carry on. And I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm speaking about here. So even though Nipsey was from Eritrea, there's always been this thing over there, even in Ethiopia. His Majesty, when he created the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, this was another way of also addressing like the tribalism in the whole continent. Now, when he was in Ethiopia, he did bring to, he is that oneness. So when the King of Kings was anointed and he became the King of Kings, conquering line of the tribe of Judah, 1930, November 2nd, right? When he became the King of Kings, November 2nd, 1930, he had spearheaded to bring all his people together as one people so that we could build up together industrially, and then also military wise, we were all on one accord. So that means that, if we're ever attacked by an enemy, we are together on one accord. Now, what's funny, I'll be honest with you, like when you see the gangsters, like you get over here in the United States, the gangsters, it's funny how like when they get to jail, they become one. they become one race, and that's because of the racial tensions inside the penitentiary. You know what I mean? And then when they get in there under certain conditions, they're like, okay, well then you become one people. That's why I think at one time, one of the California mobs, I think, was it the Black Gorilla family? You know what I mean? That, imagine if they would have carried on, because they realized when they were in there, listen, if we carry on this, the blood and Crip rivalry, or many of these rivalries that we have, we'll destroy each other in the midst of the enemy, and they'll destroy us too. So we have to have some kind of concordance where we come under one accord. And this is the whole point, I think, in the time that we're living in as Black Jews or Rastafari Jews, looking at the situation that we're dealing with in the United States and the cities, you know what I mean? Trying to get these trade schools going for our children. Black gentrification, something that, that we need to practice on, or even if you want extended Black and brown gentrification, you know what I mean? And with no hatred towards, the good white folks out there, because I know I don't want to act like everybody is, they're wicked, but people have to see through. They got to see through the wickedness, man. You got to remember, Satan said, "I'll have you fighting skin for skin." So if you get caught up in these skin for skin fights and this racial tension and all this nonsense, then how would you know who your real Israelite brothers are if we come outside with these kind of hindrances on our souls about other people? You know what I mean? I don't like to think no kind of way about nobody until, how they say first impression and all that. You know what I mean? I look at the spirit of people. You know what I'm saying? And there was times where, like, I walk in, rocking the grocery store and want to have, I see one and they have like a funny look on their face or something like that. I'm like, man, what you look, why you looking like that? And then, I'll turn, be shopping for a couple of things. And then I'll see them again and they have more of a humble look on their face. And what I thought in my mind, hey, maybe they might have been thinking the same thing about me. Like, they might have been thinking like I'm thinking, like, we have to be careful with the trends. A lot of the kind of like the wickedness and Satanism on social media. We can't let this run us as a people out here in this world, as the Almighty's people. We have to overcome all of these petty differences. You know what I mean? These petty prejudices and stuff like that. It's not a healthy way to live in life. You understand? So making this point back, like I said, with Nipsey, the reason I was bringing this up is because I was looking down here and I think there was I remember that his name was Ermias. Ermias. That's interesting, man. That's interesting. Ermias. Yes, you know what I mean? And rest his soul, rest Nipsey Hussle's soul, man. It's sad what happened and all that, even though it was, so long ago, it kind of, for some reason, for, a brother like me, it kind of just feel like it wasn't that long ago. You know what I'm saying? But, it's sad. Hopefully we can avoid these type of tragedies from happening again. You know what I'm saying? Now, there was something that I did notice, because this right here. So we had to be careful for these kind of things like this, because a lot of time a narrative can play into us being tribal with each other. You know what I'm saying? In a bad tribal. There's nothing wrong with like good tribalism. You know what I mean? It's good to be proud. I'm a Black Jew. I'm proud. I'm a Rastafari Jew. Yeah. Yes, Ja Rastafari representative. You know what I mean? Afro-American Jew. I'm an African-American Black Jew representing. You know what I mean? And the thing is that what we have to understand is that there are narratives of those, or, the evil agenda, whether they're controlling it or they didn't put it into the AI, or, we got to be careful for all these things. You know what I mean? Because you got some things, even sometime with the AI, you can get that. That can happen. I think I just recently seen a post where they were talking about, I don't know, it said something about giving I had to go look at it again, but it was something about the Jewish people. And I was like, the Jewish people. And I was like, man, they still running this game where they're trying to disconclude, the original Jews and and trying to act like another people are these people at the same time, and then disconclude another people knowing it is them. But at the same time, we kind of got to let Hashem do his work. Because remember, I don't wish no catastrophes or any tornadoes or floods or any of those things on other people. But you have to think to yourself, if you're a child of Christ or you're a child of God and you trying to do the right thing, you know what I mean? And the enemy is like, he kind of laughing at you and they super rich and you know what I mean, or whatever like that. And it's not just because somebody's rich. It doesn't mean they're evil because they're rich, but there are rich, evil people. I mean, we have to admit this. Let's just be honest. You know what I mean? And if ones are not evil, then their actions would show that they were not. You know what I mean? Because they'd be more heartfelt for humanity, and the decisions that they would make would be good for us as a people. You know what I'm saying? Or it's just like, if you walk in the streets and you see people who are homeless, you know what I'm saying, and you can try to, hey, let me. There's some kind of system or something I can provide to get these people out of this condition and on their feet. People who are drug addicts who need to be forced to get off of those drugs. You know what I mean? Like a forced treatment center and all of that. You know what I mean? And every time they go back on it, you got to go force them back into that treatment center. Now, some of y'all would say that's prison, that they that rebellious. Perhaps it is. Hopefully not. I would hope that it wouldn't have to be so harsh. You know what I mean? But some people do have to learn the harder way. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, you know what I mean? Though, like I said, we pray for people and, their sicknesses and conditions and some of the things that they're going through. But what we're speaking about, like this bad tribalism, I want you to look here. Like, so over here on the right side of the screen, it says, is Nipsey Hussle Ethiopian? Right? And now the comment when he said we had a 30-year war, right? So it was almost as if, and I want to show you something that I thought was really interesting here. Because, Nipsey, he went to LA, became a 60 and everything. Like I was like, man, it's kind of like he watched his people go through some tribalism with the oneness of Ethiopia. Because now the reason we got Genesis 2 and 13 on the left side of the screen, the reason that we have that there is because we want to show that Ethiopia, through the Ethiopian Fidel even, like the Ethiopian alphabet system, it shows how Eritrea, Tigray, Ethiopia, you know what I mean? The Oromo, the Amhara, all of us, all of this tribalism, and all the different forms of tribalism that are going on over there, right? It shows that the bad tribalism, right? It's something was causing these wars. There's some kind of evil that was causing our own people to fight against each other. And this is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was interesting the brother come from Eritrea. And then when they asked him this comment about Ethiopia, he mentioned this 30-year war. We had a 30-year war. And he goes, we fought for our name, right? Now, is this the enemy? Like, the enemy kind of, they're noticing that he made this and all the stuff that Nipsey has said. Because I remember Nipsey actually had said some things too. Like he had a transitional state of mind. Like his mind he grew in his education and his levels of fruition. You can tell because you can tell when he was getting into Dr. Sebi, and he was starting to open up his education to more things about his land, where he was from, Ethiopia, the history, perhaps even the King of Kings, Gedamawi Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari, the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, and he was, he began to transition into a right place. But did you gotta understand also too that there is some witchcraft or Satanism that I believe is also associated with bad tribalism or some of the bad gang activity. You got to be careful. You know what I mean? And as we were saying before, if ones is worshiping Satan and doing wicked shit, they need to be called out straight up for it. You know what I'm saying? Just put them on blast, like get rid of them. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that serious, like as far as if who gonna represent for the devil? I mean, come on, keep it real. I mean, maybe you was doing something you didn't know what you was doing or whatever like that. You need to repent and have a change of mind, change of heart. But this, the represent for it straight up is like, man, that's the most despicable, disgusting shit I ever heard. Most brothers I know that was in gangs, they wasn't no devil worshippers. I heard a few brothers say they was. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? But hey, maybe you got caught up. But, even they repented, man. They was like, hey, man, I don't know why we do that shit. It wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you pay attention to right here where it says we had a 30-year war, we fought for our name, right? But hustle unabashedly, they say unabashedly embrace his Eritrean heritage. You know what I mean? And I think what Nipsey learned as he was, I think as time was going, Nipsey was learning that Ethiopia, Ethiopia from the biblical perspective makes us all one. We are one people. You know what I mean? So whatever bad tribalism that started, that separated, our people from being one Ethiopia. One Ethiopia. And it wasn't saying like, oh, dismiss their traditions as a tribe or their culture, their family legacy or anything like that. No, it's just saying that our relationship as one people, one love, why should we throw that away because people want us to fight and kill and murder each other? You know what I mean? That's some evil, despicable thing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what's being portrayed in a lot of these, this to revamp this, whatever kind of, first of all, the whole, the white colonialism, the white Protestant colonialism, that's a whole nother subject matter. I have to go into that. And that will never be done ever again. You know what I mean? I mean, they can try to do that, but they see the Almighty is going to throw that down. It even says in the Torah that if you try to raise this up, I'm going to destroy it. So if there's some kind of intention or agenda to try to overmine the real black Jews or the real black Israelites, you know what I mean? And not just the blacks, but the Israelites all over the world. But I think the representation, you know what I mean, of us recognizing Amos 9 and 7. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important for all peoples of the world, all of us. You know what I mean? To be one people under the Almighty. Because it's funny how the Protestants, I thought it was funny how the white Protestants come up with a constitution that says under one God, and then now all of a sudden they just break every value or they break every law that that just so, they don't mind just breaking God's laws and then turn around and putting a fantasy spin on God's word. You know what I mean? And wonder why things are getting worse on the earth. Things are getting bad. You know what I'm saying? And I give thanks to those good, the good white Israelites or the good white people that say, hey, no, we're not going to stand for that. We're not just going to let these things just happen. And that's the same thing for my black brothers and sisters. That's the same thing for my brown brothers and sisters and all my other brothers and sisters out there. You know what I mean? Whatever nationality or respectively that you are, that you represent. But yeah, I wanted to come here and make reference to this. I thought this was important. I wanted to get this out here that there is, we see that, what is it? Hasatan, the prince of the air, right? Y'all know that verse where he's the prince of the air. This is one of those prince of the air things where they want to, regurgitate how Nipsey Hussle said he unabashedly embraces Eritrean heritage. Now, there's something good about that. But I think that the enemy wants us to see that part where he said, where it says that we had a 30-year war. They want us to go into that part. It's kind of like, you remember the earlier years when the Bloods and Crips were murdering each other in L.A.? They was on a bloodbath, and then the brothers came out with the tapes. Remember they trained it, and they came with the tapes. The banging on wax was to try to bring some more peace. That brothers say, hey, instead of banging or murdering each other, take it out on the wax. I'm not telling you to do that either, because we know where that's gone to now. I don't want to get into all of that. I mean, you see with the drill and, the this and the dead, and I don't. So I'm not advocating that either. Though at the same time, I remember back then, it was an idea. The brother who came up with that idea, or the people who came up with that, they were trying to find a way where their people would stop killing each other, man, and come together as one and see that, hey, listen, we're one people. You know what I mean? And because of that, check this out. Because of that, now in LA, you got different sets that come together and become cliques when you would have never saw that before. You know what I'm saying? You're like, wait a minute, this set cool with that set? What? Right? But at the same time, it's kind of like we got to be careful, because then they'll use that and have the brothers and sisters murdering and fighting a whole nother set and another crew. And once these murders start happening, man, it could get very, very heavy. But I just wanted to bring that message out there that there's that oneness with the Ethiopian Fidel, and that is the reason why we have come to the undisputed King of Kings, But I just want to give a shout out, rest Nipsey's soul, and I just want to make that, that correction that Nipsey is a Eritrean, God bless, Yeshua Shalom, and God bless.